In the quiet stillness of the night, when the world settles into its softest breaths and the air itself seems to pause, there's a kind of doorway that opens, an entrance not made of stone or wood, but of imagination. It is through this gentle passage that we begin our journey, not hurried or forced, but as naturally as a slow inhale. Allow yourself to sink into the rhythm of this moment. Let the dimness around you loosen its hold and allow your thoughts to drift as lightly as grains of sand carried by a desert breeze. Tonight, we travel far back in time, beyond the familiar, beyond recorded history, into the ancient lands where gods walked among mortals and the rising sun was more than a celestial phenomenon. It was a presence, a guardian, a creator. Picture the desert of ancient Egypt resting beneath a sky strewn with stars, each one shimmering faintly like embers scattered across a velvet expanse. The Nile lies quiet, its waters dark and smooth, moving with a patience known only to rivers that have witnessed thousands of years unfold. In this serene landscape, the boundaries between the physical world and the divine seem thinner, softer, like a veil gently lifted by a passing wind. The people of that time did not merely observe nature. They lived beside it, learned from it, and sought the meaning woven into its cycles. To them, every sunrise was a story in motion, an event filled with purpose and presence. And at the center of their universe, at the heart of their understanding of existence itself, was Ra, the great sun god. His light was not simply illumination. It was order, life, warmth, protection. To speak of creation was to speak of Ra. To speak of time was to speak of his daily journey. Yet before the world knew light, before Ra's radiance broke the darkness, there was only stillness, an endless, silent expanse waiting for the first spark of being. It is from that profound emptiness, that quiet before all existence, that our story begins. As you settle deeper into this unfolding tale, imagine yourself drifting gently over the landscape. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the soft movement of awareness guiding you toward a distant horizon. You feel the warm sand beneath your feet, timeless and fine, shaped by winds that have blown for millennia. You sense the weight of the ancient night around you, calm and unbroken, as though it has been waiting for your arrival. In this place, the modern world fades away. Concern, noise, and haste dissolve into the vastness. What remains is simply the openness to listen. In the mind of the ancient Egyptians, the universe began not with a flash or a violent eruption, but with a gentle emergence of light from darkness. They envisioned creation as something deliberate and patient. Before Ra rose from the waters of none, there was quiet potential, like a long, deep breath held before the first soft exhale of dawn. Imagine that moment, suspended in time, where the world is poised between nothingness and existence. A peaceful tension, neither chaotic nor frightening, but calm and profound. It is within this delicate pause that the first stirrings of divinity awaken. Slowly, faintly at first, a glow begins to shimmer across the silent waters. It is not yet the sun, not yet a defined shape, but something like the warmth of a candle through silk, subtle and growing. This glow is Ra's earliest presence, the earliest hint that life is about to unfold. You may picture it as a gentle ripple in the dark, a soft awakening that brings with it promise rather than disruption. The ancient Egyptians believed that Ra willed himself into being, rising from the primordial waters with purpose, clarity, and light. And in this telling, we too follow that rise, not abruptly, but in a slow, calming ascent. As you listen, allow your mind to ease into the rhythm of this emergence. Feel how the quiet darkness embraces the faint light without resistance. There is no conflict here, only transition. The air grows warmer, the space grows brighter, and the waters slowly retreat as Ra takes form. His presence radiates with an energy that is both powerful and serene, like the warmth of morning sunlight on closed eyelids. This is a moment where existence begins to shape itself, not through force, but through illumination. Ra's first act is simply to be, and in his being, the world begins. In ancient stories, the rise of Ra is a moment filled not with noise or chaos, but with balance and harmony. The light spreads gently, revealing the first contours of creation. The mound upon which he stands, the horizon that awaits him, the space that will soon become the sky. Everything begins in slow motion, as though respecting the sanctity of this first dawn. And as his glow expands, it invites awareness, order and the beginnings of time itself. The endless night slowly loosens, giving way to a warmth that promises life. Let yourself drift within this scene, feeling the calm progression of transformation. The darkness is never banished abruptly. Instead, it recedes like a tide slipping back into the sea, graceful and unhurried. In its place comes the steady radiance of Ra. His light does not demand but offers, gently unfolding across the world. It touches the sands, the waters, the empty sky, and begins to define them. What was once formless begins to take shape. What was once silent begins to hum with the potential of future worlds. As Ra's first light spreads outward, imagine how the ancient Egyptians might have felt when watching the sunrise each morning. The reassurance, the steadiness, the gentle comfort of knowing that creation is renewed with every dawn. In their mythology, Ra is not only a god but a cycle, a rhythm, a promise that life continues. And in this opening moment of the story, we experience that same promise. A slow awakening, a warm beginning, a peaceful entrance into understanding. Here, in the quiet glow of the first light, our journey begins. Not with noise, but with calm clarity, inviting us to follow Ra to the fullness of his myth, through creation, conflict, journeys, rebirth, and endless cycles of day and night. For now, we rest in the softness of this first emergence, letting the light settle gently around us as the world prepares to unfold. Before the world knew shape or form, before the skies stretched above or the earth rose beneath, there was only a vast, endless expanse known to the ancient Egyptians as none. It was not chaos in the violent sense, nor darkness filled with fear. Instead, it was a quiet, formless ocean, an infinite sea of potential, still and untouched. Imagine drifting within this boundless space, where there is no up or down, no time, no movement, only silence, soft and deep, like a dream without images. This was a beginning before beginnings, the space where everything that ever would be was held gently and waiting. As you immerse yourself into this primordial scene, let the concept of none surround you like warm water. It is not cold or harsh. It is tranquil, peaceful, and without tension. The ancient Egyptians believed that all creation slept within this watery abyss, suspended in a kind of divine stillness. The world had not yet awakened, and so none rested in perfect quiet, its depth stretching endlessly in all directions. Float within that silence for a moment, feeling how the absence of form allows the mind to soften and slow, as though the very universe has paused to breathe. In this vast, unbroken ocean, there were no stars to guide the eye and no sound to disturb the stillness. There was only the gentle suggestion of movement, like a whisper beneath the water's surface. Too faint to be seen, too soft to be heard, yet present in a way that feels alive. The Egyptians imagined none as a place rich with possibility, fertile with the seeds of creation. Even though nothing had yet taken shape, it was a canvas of the cosmos, waiting patiently for the first stroke of existence. In this suspended moment, feel how the potential of everything rests quietly, as if waiting for a gentle spark. This pre-creation world was not lonely. It was simply unformed, untouched by light or structure. In this depth, the gods, the sky, the earth, and even time itself had not yet been born. But like a sleeper on the brink of waking, something stirred. There was a soft suggestion in the darkness, an impulse, a need for emergence. It is a peaceful stirring, like the faint vibration of a string before it is plucked. The still waters, endless and serene, carried within them the promise of creation, the promise of Ra. Before Ra's light appeared, the Egyptians described the universe as resting within the embrace of none. Think of it as the quiet heartbeat of a world not yet awakened. The waters were not threatening. They were comforting, eternal, and patient. They held the essence of everything that light would soon reveal. This image brings a sense of calm, a sense that creation begins not with force, but with gentle intention. In this imagined space, you feel cradled by the darkness, not overwhelmed by it. Slowly, subtly, the stillness of none begins to feel charged with expectation. The waters ripple, not in disturbance, but in anticipation. A faint glow begins forming somewhere beneath the surface. Unfamiliar, yet warm. It does not burst forth. It grows as softly as a lantern being lit behind a curtain. This glow is the earliest presence of Ra, though he is not yet fully formed. The transition from emptiness to emergence takes its time, unfolding with a kind of cosmic tenderness. Within Nun, the mound known as the Benben rises. It lifts from the watery expanse with the same unhurried grace as an island appearing through mist. This mound, representing the very first land, breaks the endless surface of Nun and becomes a foundation on which creation will take shape. Imagine watching this rise not with alarm but with quiet awe. It is like witnessing the slow dawn of awareness within a dream, subtle, gradual, but transformative. As the Benben rises, the glow intensifies, shimmering softly like light refracted through water. The presence of Ra draws nearer to becoming, yet there is still serene silence surrounding him. You can picture the surface of the primordial waters illuminated in faint gold, their once featureless calm now reflecting the promise of creation. The Egyptians believed that Ra emerged of his own will, that he appeared because he desired to exist and to bring order to the unformed universe. That intention, that quiet decision, is felt in this moment of emergence. Still surrounded by the waters of Nun, Ra has not yet spoken the words that will shape the gods or the world. He is simply there, a presence, a warmth, a beginning. The stillness of Nun remains, but it is a stillness now infused with purpose. In your mind, imagine how this transition feels. The universe gently shifting from absolute quiet to the soft hum of nascent existence. Nothing rushes. Nothing forces its way forward. Everything unfolds with the calm of a slow tide. The Egyptians often depicted Nun not as a void to escape from, but as a sacred state, meaningful and necessary. It held all things before they had names, allowing creation to emerge in perfect peace. Nun was the womb of the cosmos, timeless and serene. This view turns the beginning of the universe into something surprisingly comforting. Instead of imagining the world erupting from violent chaos, the myth asks us to imagine a quiet awakening, a dawn rising out of infinite calm. As Ra's glow spreads further, the waters of Nun are softly illuminated, their surfaces shimmering with delicate light. The contrast between darkness and light is gentle, like the earliest hints of sunrise brushing against the horizon. The world is slowly gaining definition, but Nun does not vanish. It remains beneath everything that will be created, a reminder of the original stillness from which all order arises. In your mind, you might see the waters becoming the hidden foundation of the world, forever present beneath creation. Eventually, Ra rises fully from the Benben mound, radiant and complete, but this moment still belongs to Nun. It is the last breath before creation gains momentum, the final quiet before the first words of the world are spoken. The waters continue to cradle the mound as the new light glows above them. This pause, this gentle, cosmic inhale, is what makes the story of creation feel so peaceful, so patient. As you drift through this ancient scene, envision the still waters stretching to infinity, the quiet glow on the horizon, and the sense that everything is about to begin. The darkness is soft, not oppressive. The silence is deep, not empty. In this moment, you are floating in the same calm expanse that the ancient Egyptians imagined at the dawn of time. And within that peaceful ocean, the first light of Ra prepares to rise, ready to turn stillness into existence. The moment of creation approaches gently, as though the universe itself exhales after a timeless pause. From the still and sacred waters of Nun, a faint shimmer begins to grow. It is not sudden or startling. It arrives like the first warmth before sunrise, the delicate glow that softens the darkness rather than chasing it away. This glow gathers around the rising Benben mound, touching the edges of its newly formed shape. You may imagine standing on the quiet surface of an endless sea, watching a golden radiance spread across it, the color deepening with each passing breath. The ancient Egyptians believed that this glow was the earliest sign of Ra, the one destined to bring order to the world. Slowly, as if guided by intention rather than force, the light intensifies. It remains gentle, never blinding, never sharp, just a growing warmth that the darkness seems to accept and cradle. The waters of Nun ripple slightly beneath the glow, but still in a peaceful, unhurried way, like the soft beating of a heart that has just awakened. Ra's presence begins to take form, shaped not by hands or tools, but by pure divine will. In the myths, Ra emerges by naming himself into existence, the first consciousness to rise, the first spark to recognize its own identity. and as he rises, the universe shifts from potential to becoming. Imagine the moment R.A. lifts himself from the waters, not with dramatic motion, but with the grace of morning light settling over the horizon. He comes into being slowly, the way a dream becomes clear upon waking. His form glows with soft radiance, illuminating the mound beneath him. The air around him seems to shimmer gently, as though touched by gold. There is no sound, yet a deep recognition fills the space, as if every corner none understands that something sacred has occurred. As R.A. stands upon the Benben Mound, the first true point of land in an infinite sea, the glow around him brightens. It spills over the surface of none, casting ripples of light that travel outward in widening circles. You may picture these circles like calm waves moving through a still pond, each one carrying with the promise of structure, of direction, of life itself. The Egyptians saw this moment as the beginning of order, the shift from timeless stillness to a world governed by balance and purpose. R.A. becomes the axis around which the future will unfold. In this quiet emergence, R.A. does not hurry. Eternity is his companion. There is no rush in divine creation. His consciousness unfolds the way a lotus opens at dawn, each layer revealing new intention. At this early stage, his light is gentle, carrying warmth rather than fierceness. The Egyptians associate this early form of R.A. with Khepri, the morning sun, symbolizing birth, renewal, and the soft beginnings of life. You can imagine this presence as a warm glow resting on your skin, soothing and steady. As Ra's light grows, it begins to differentiate the world around him. Darkness no longer feels uniform. Instead, it becomes a backdrop to which gold and amber tones flow. The surface of none reflects these colors, shimmering with hints of dawn, despite the absence of sky. It is as though creation is painting itself slowly, one brushstroke of light at a time. The first breath of the world, gentle and unhurried, fills the space. R.A. lifts his gaze across the endless sea, and in this gesture, the idea of direction is born. There is now a sense of above and below, light and not yet light. His presence defines these distinctions simply by existing. The ancient Egyptians understood this as the ordering principle, Ma'at, the balance and harmony that R.A. would later govern. In this moment, though, Ma'at is only beginning to take shape, like a melody hinted at before the first note is played. With a voice that resonates more like thought than sound, R.A. begins to speak creation into existence. His words are gentle, flowing from him with the calm certainty of one who knows the shape of the universe before it is formed. He names the elements that will become fundamental to life: light, air, moisture, sky, earth. The act of naming is not forceful. It is nurturing, like a parent whispering identity into a child's ear. Each word brings a soft shift in the stillness of none, inviting the world to awaken. As he speaks, a faint glow appears in the distance, the earliest suggestion of a horizon. The waters around the Benben Mound respond to his voice, not with turbulence, but with soft ripples, as if acknowledging every new idea, every new concept. The world begins its gentle unfolding. Shadows take shape. The first currents of air stir above the mound, moving with the delicate touch of a breeze through feathers. The Egyptians believed that Ra's emergence brought clarity not only to the world but to consciousness itself. In the moment of his rising, awareness appears. Possibility becomes intention, and intention becomes creation. As R.A. continues to glow, his light spreads wider across the primordial waters, and with it comes a sense that the world is preparing to bloom. The first dawn is not a single flash, but a slow, unfolding radiance. Imagine watching the horizon shift from deep indigo to soft amber, the light stretching outward with infinite patience. The warm colors deepen gradually, illuminating the vastness of none. Ra's form grows more defined, though still bathed in the gentle haze of early light. You can feel the warmth increasing, but never harshly. It spreads in a soothing curve, like a blanket laid across the waters. At this stage, R.A. is alone, yet not lonely. His presence fills the space with intention, and the waters beneath him cradle the beginning of existence. The quiet around him is peaceful, not empty. Creation is breathing in before it breathes out. R.A. stands as the first source, the first guide, the first mind in a universe that has only just begun to wake. As the golden light intensifies, the waters of none begin to retreat slightly from the mound, creating a more pronounced boundary. This subtle shift marks the earliest moment when land and water separate. Still, the transition is gentle, as though the universe is stretching after a long, restful sleep. The line between darkness and light blurs softly, and the glow of Ra radiates outward like a promise. The first dawn of the world unfolds around him, not abrupt, but layered like the slow blooming of sunlight through morning mist. In this calm unfolding, existence begins to take shape. Ra's presence becomes a beacon, guiding creation from stillness into definition. And as his light expands, touching the waters, the air, and the distant horizon, the universe takes its first quiet steps toward order. This is the moment of Ra's first dawn, gentle, luminous, serene, the beginning of all things, born not from chaos or violence, but from light rising softly out of the stillness of none, carrying with it warmth, clarity, and the promise of a world soon to be born. Ra stood upon the Benben mound, glowing gently, his presence filling the silent expanse with warmth and intention. The faint horizon he had shaped now extended into a soft arc of possibility. The world around him was still quiet, still wrapped in the lingering embrace of none, yet it waited with a subtle expectation, as though listening for the next breath of creation. And in this early dawn of existence, Ra prepared to give a universe its first companions, beings who would help shape the structure, the motion, and the balance of all that was to come. The Egyptians believed that Ra possessed a unique power, creation through speech. What he named came into being. What he envisioned shaped itself from the raw potential of the primordial waters. His voice held not harshness, but clarity, a soft authority that flowed like warm wind over still water. Imagine his words drifting outward, gentle yet resonant, forming ripples that transformed into life. In this quiet moment, Ra looked across the endless expanse and began to speak. The first of his creations emerged with the grace of a breath. From Ra's words came Shu, the god of air. His presence was not a sudden figure, but a sensation, a soft stir of wind passing across the mound, carried with it the coolness of space and the promise of movement. Shu was the first force to lift and separate, the one who would eventually hold the sky apart from the earth. But here, in his first moment, he was like a calming breeze that brushes against the skin, gentle and steady. The universe, until then untouched by motion, felt its first currents, and the stillness of none shifted into a delicate dance. Next came Tefnut, goddess of moisture. Her arrival was a whisper of humidity, the subtle gathering of dew on unseen surfaces. She emerged like the scent of fresh rain before it falls, soft and soothing. The Egyptians associated her with balance, with the gentle exchange between dryness and wetness, breath and mist. Together, Shu and Tefnut represented the first duality, the first pair that brought harmony to existence. They were siblings, companions, and forces destined to work together, weaving movement and moisture into the fabric of the world. As Shu and Tefnut drifted away to explore the early boundaries of creation, Ra watched them with a quiet sense of purpose. His light warmed the waters of none, and the glow around him deepened. He understood that creation must be shaped step by step, gently and deliberately, with calm intention. And so, he spoke again, calling forth the next pair of beings. From his voice came Geb, the earth god, steady and grounded. His presence formed slowly beneath Ra's light, a subtle rising of land, not loud or abrupt, but like the shape of a shoreline gradually appearing through morning mist. Geb's essence was warm and firm, carrying the promise of fertile ground and stable foundation. The Egyptians imagined him lying beneath the feet of the gods, supporting life with patience and quiet strength. In this early moment, he stretched across the universe as a soft, welcoming surface ready to cradle creation. Above him, born from Ra's next breath, came Nut, the goddess of the sky. She arched gracefully over Geb, forming the first dome of starlight in space. Her presence was vast and serene, like a deep blue twilight transitioning into dawn. Nut was a gentle curve of the heavens, the keeper of stars, the mother of the night's calm. As she arched above Geb, their closeness created a sense of intimacy, like the quiet meeting of earth and sky before they are gently separated. Ra watched Nut and Geb with quiet compassion. He saw them intertwined, pressed closely together in the innocence of early creation. But for existence to take its full form, for space, light, and life to unfold, he knew they could not remain merged. And so, with a soft command, he asked Shu to lift the sky. Shu, ever faithful to balance and harmony, placed himself between Geb and Nut. With gentle, steady force, he raised the sky upwards, stretching Nut's shimmering body high above, creating room for the winds to flow and for the world to grow. The separation was not violent. It was a slow, tender pulling apart, like two companions stretching out their limbs after rest. Geb settled below, warm and grounded, forming the land. Nut arched above, shimmering with potential, forming the heavens. Shu held the space between them, his presence now essential to the flow of creation. The universe, once a single cradle of water and darkness, now at height, distance, and dimension. Ra's world was beginning to take shape. With the heavens set apart from the earth, Ra spoke again. His voice moved through creation like a calm wave, shaping the next elements of existence. Light expanded more fully across the sky. Shadows fell softly upon Geb's surface. Winds drifted between the two, carrying the freshness of Shu and the cool mist of Tefnut. The world was no longer still but gently alive, each element rising to its place in the cosmic order. Ra's creative power then turned toward humanity. The Egyptians believed that humans were formed from Ra's tears, drops of divine emotion falling onto the earth. In this telling, imagine Ra gazing upon his creation, feeling a warmth within him, a subtle stirring of compassion. As he looked over Geb's newly formed surface, a tear slipped from his eye, not in sadness, but in recognition of the life that was ready to emerge. The tear touched the earth like a small, shining jewel. From that drop of divine essence, humanity began to form, shaped by Ra's warmth and blessed by his presence. The first humans were gentle beings, connected to the gods not by distance but by origin. They were born beneath Nut's arching sky, raised upon Geb's supportive earth, breathed into life by Shu's soft winds, and nurtured by Tefnut's quiet moisture. They felt Ra's light as a comforting warmth, a guiding presence that marked day from night, order from uncertainty. In these early moments, humanity lived close to the divine, walking in a world still new, still fresh with creation's glow. Ra watched them with a serene pride, knowing that the world he had shaped would soon grow, flourish, and find its own rhythms. Yet he also understood that his creations, gods, humans, earth, sky, would develop stories of their own. They would learn, wander, love, and resist. Creation was not a finished work, but an unfolding journey, and Ra stood at its beginning as both creator and guide. As the early world settled into its first patterns, Ra's light spread gently across every corner. The universe felt soft and balanced, shaped by intention and imbued with harmony. Each god had their place. Each force had its purpose. Humanity had received the spark of life, and in the peaceful glow of this early era, existence felt aligned, serene, and full of promise. In the early days of creation, when the world was still new and every breath of wind felt like the universe learning how to move, there existed a time the ancient Egyptians would later remember as the first golden age. It was a period of harmony and quiet flourishing, when Ra, having shaped the heavens, the earth, the gods, and humanity, chose to walk among his creations. His presence was not distant or unreachable. It was warm, familiar, like the steady glow of the morning sun resting gently across the land. In the sacred era, the world felt close, alive, balanced in a way that seemed effortless. Imagine Ra moving across the earth, not as a blinding sun, but as a radiant figure whose light illuminated everything he touched. His footsteps did not shake the ground, they warmed it. Plants responded to his presence, stretching upward with fresh green leaves. Rivers shimmered beneath his glow, reflecting soft gold ripples that drifted lazily toward the horizon. Animals roamed freely in this early paradise, sensing the divine calm that settled over everything. Humanity lived in peace, guided by Ra not through commands or warnings, but through gentle example. The people of this age did not fear their god. Instead, they felt a deep, natural gratitude for his closeness. When they worked the fertile soil, they believed they were shaping the land alongside him. When they drank from the Nile, they felt that Ra's reflection danced upon the water, blessing it with purity. Every sunrise was a reassurance, a soft promise that the light would return, that order still reigned, that the world remained a place of beauty. In this golden time, day and night were felt like slow, comforting heartbeats, steady and dependable. The earth itself seemed to bloom under Ra's care. Geb, The god of earth welcomed his presence. The soil grew rich, fruits and grains flourished in abundance, and the desert winds softened when Ra passed, as though bowing respectfully to their creator. Nut, arched above as the sky, opened her vast, luminous body to receive Ra's daily light, scattering bright reflections across her star-dusted surface when night returned. Shu, holding the sky aloft, carried Ra's warmth gently between heaven and earth, and Tefnut's moisture drifted through the air as a cooling mist, balancing the heat of the sun with refreshing dampness. Every god played their part with harmony, and every part of creation moved together with fluid consistency. Humanity lived simply in these days. They did not yet build temples or carve statues. They did not ask for Ra's intervention, for they felt his presence constantly. They tended their families, learned to build shelters from reeds and mud, discovered how to harvest what the land offered, and slept beneath Nut's serene star canopy. Their world was small, but it was safe. It was enough. There was no concept yet of hardship or divine distance. Ra's light enveloped their days, and the quiet peace of night embraced them as he rested. In this age, Ra was known as a king, but not in the way later pharaohs would rule. His kingship was gentle. He led by illumination rather than decree. He watched humanity grow with the tenderness of a parent observing the quiet triumphs of their children. When he moved through villages, people gathered with joy, their faces lifted toward his light. They felt a closeness to him, as though each of them were personally known, individually seen. And in a way, they were, for Ra's creation bound him to every living being. The first golden age was also a time of discovery. Humanity learned the rhythms of seasons, the patterns of birds, the rise and fall of the Nile. They began to understand the cycles that Ra represented, the warmth of day, the cool breath of night, the renewal of dawn. These patterns became the first lessons of existence, delivered not through words but through consistent repetition. Life was guided by the sun's path, and because Ra walked among them, they felt connected to the very rhythm of the cosmos. Imagine a quiet evening in this early world. Ra's light begins to soften as he prepares to step toward the horizon. The sky shifts into warm hues of orange and rose. The rivers reflect his fading glow, shimmering lazily like molten gold. People gather, watching in serene silence, knowing that although the light dims, it will always return. Night arrives gently, a cool blanket settling across the land, and in the hush of darkness, Ra's presence lingers, calmer, quieter, like a candle kept glowing inside the heart. The animals too felt the balance of this era. Herds moved peacefully across plains, predators and prey behaving with patterns guided by instinct but not desperation. There was abundance everywhere. Water flowed freely. Vegetation grew thick and strong. The harsh desert had not yet hardened into the realms of scarcity that would later shape Egyptian life. In this time, the world was still being formed, still soft around the edges, still welcoming and warm. Even the gods were close during this golden period. Shu's winds carried soft whispers through the air. Tefnut's mist cooled the land in tender greeting. Nut's stars glimmered as though blinking in gentle affection. Geb's soil seemed to hum with quiet vitality. The gods lived alongside Ra and humanity, shaping the world not through battles or dramatic feats, but through presence and balance. It was as though every element of existence was synchronized, moving in harmony like a slow, celestial dance. Ra cherished this era. He reveled in the simplicity of creation, in the joy of watching life unfold. His light was not yet burdened by the responsibilities or trials that would come later. He did not yet face rebellion, threats from chaos, or the challenges of distance. In this early time, creation was new, fresh, and unscarred. Everything was touched by innocence. Ra felt a deep satisfaction in walking the earth without fear or conflict. He saw humanity thrive, and he felt fulfilled. But even in perfection, the seeds of change quietly take root. The world was growing, expanding, gaining complexity. Humanity, in their closeness to Ra, also began to develop their own desires, curiosities, and questions. They admired his light, but they also wondered about their own place in the world. As the Golden Age progressed, small shifts began to appear, subtle, almost imperceptible at first. Not in the form of rebellion yet, but in the earliest stirrings of independent thought. For now, though, the world still rested in the glow of Ra's gentle leadership. The land was peaceful, the sky was calm, time unfolded with steady ease, and humanity walked beneath the sun in harmony, unaware that change, like all things, is inevitable even for gods. The first golden age will be remembered as a time of harmony, a time when the boundaries between divine and mortal were soft, and when Ra's light warmed the world with a gentle, loving constancy. The first golden age unfolded with quiet beauty, each day shimmering beneath Ra's warm guidance. Humanity lived in harmony, sheltered by the balance he had woven into the world. But even in the gentlest of eras, change moved slowly beneath the surface, like unseen currents beneath calm waters. At first, these shifts were faint, thoughts whispered in private, questions untouched by words. Yet with time they gathered weight, drifting towards something the universe had never known before, the stirrings of doubt. Humanity had grown. They had learned to cultivate the land, to build communities, to raise children who had not witnessed the earliest days when Ra walked openly among them. With each new generation, the memory of divine closeness softened. Ra was still present, still visible through his radiance and warmth, but many humans began to see him as a distant figure. Powerful, yes, but far above their everyday concerns. Some wondered why a god of such brilliance should rule over them directly. Others questioned why they must always follow the order he had established. These thoughts were not born from malice. They grew from curiosity, restlessness, and the slow development of independence. Imagine quiet gatherings by the riverside at dusk, when Ra's light dimmed and the world softened into cool blues and purples. People whispered to one another, their voices low with uncertainty. They admired the gifts given by Ra, the fertile soil, the protective warmth, the dependable cycle of day and night. Yet they also wondered whether they should remain forever in his shadow. Such thoughts were new, tender, like seeds drifting through the air searching for a place to settle. Some humans felt constrained by the order Ra had established. They wished to shape their own destiny, to test their strength without divine oversight. Others believed Ra no longer paid attention as closely as before. He had created gods and laws, placed the sky above and the earth below, and set the sun on its eternal path. Humanity wondered whether he truly still saw them as individuals or simply as many small lives beneath his light. In this way, their admiration shifted subtly toward belief that they no longer needed him as they once did. Ra sensed these changes, though gently, like a shift in the wind that touches the skin. His light revealed everything, yet he did not act swiftly. He watched as humans continued their lives, their days filled with harvest, laughter, learning, and the quiet stirring of pride. He knew that growth was natural, that creation itself carried a potential for independence. And yet, he felt a soft ache, a gentle sorrow, as he saw humanity drift from the closeness they once shared. The gods who watched over the world felt the shift as well. Shu sensed in the wind's changing pattern. Tefnut felt in the moisture that clung more heavily to the air. Geb heard it through the vibrations of footsteps on the earth, footsteps that no longer held the same reverence. Nut saw it reflected in the way humans looked at the sky, no longer with pure devotion, but with questions forming behind their gaze. None of this was hostile or rebellious in appearance. It was simply the natural unfolding of a growing civilization, unaware that its curiosity would soon create a rift. As the days passed, whispers turned into conversations, and conversations into small gatherings. People began to speak openly of their thoughts. Some wondered whether they should govern themselves. Some questioned why Ra needed to rule at all. Others felt that if humans were created from divine tears, then the spark within them might be more powerful than they had realized. These ideas spread gently but steadily, like ripples moving outward from a stone quietly dropped into the Nile. For Ra, the turning point arrived one peaceful evening. As he walked among the people, his radiance cast long, soft shadows upon the sand. He expected the familiar warmth of gratitude, but instead, he noticed faces turned away, conversations paused abruptly, and eyes filled with something he had never witnessed before, distrust. Not widespread, not aggressive, just present, like a subtle blemish on the smooth surface of his once perfect bond with humanity. The realization settled on him like a veil of cool mist. Humanity, whom he had created with tenderness and guided with steady warmth, no longer felt the same. They had grown confident, perhaps too confident, and no longer recognized the balance and order he had bestowed. Their hearts had begun to wander. R.A. retreated quietly that night, the horizon darkening behind him. He felt no anger, only a deep, quiet hurt. He had walked the earth to nurture harmony, yet harmony had slipped from the hands of his creations like desert sand. He understood that the world he shaped was changing, that humans were evolving in ways he had not fully expected. Their freedom had given rise to pride, and their pride had become the root of distance. But humanity did not see this moment through Ra's eyes. To them, their thoughts felt justified, their desires reasonable. They believed themselves ready to challenge the structure he had set. A few even claimed that R.A. was growing old, that his power was less than it once was. This was not true. R.A. was eternal. But the perception spread softly, becoming a quiet hum beneath the surface of daily life. R.A., though radiant and wise, felt weary for the first time. Not physically, for his light never dimmed, but emotionally. It is said that even gods can feel the weight of disappointment. He consulted quietly with the other gods, seeking understanding rather than retaliation. They listened, offering reflections but no instructions, for the choice of how to respond rested with R.A. alone. And within his heart, he knew the time for indulgent patience had passed. Humanity's doubts and pride were not merely careless. They threatened the balance of Ma'at, the cosmic order that held the world steady. Their rebellion, though small in appearance, carried a seed of chaos. If left unaddressed, it could unravel the harmony he had so carefully woven. R.A. could not allow the world to fall into disorder, for creation itself depended on balance. And so, in the quiet turning of divine thought, R.A. made a decision. He would not punish all of humanity. He would not destroy the world he had built with love, but he would respond. And his response would come not through thunder or wrath, but through an aspect of himself that humanity had forgotten to fear. The eye of R.A. This decision marked the end of innocence, the end of First Golden Age. Humanity had not yet realized what their restlessness would awaken, and R.A., though still gentle at heart, prepared to reveal a part of himself that carried the full force of divine justice. Ra's heart felt heavy in the days that followed humanity's quiet rebellion. He had walked among them with warmth. He had guided them with patience. Yet the closeness that once bound creator and creation had loosened like a thread slipping from a tapestry. The whispers of distrust, the small gatherings of doubt, the quiet confidence that humans no longer needed him. These subtle shifts weighed on him more deeply than any physical threat could. In this calm yet sorrowful state, R.A. looked upon the world he loved. The river still glimmered beneath his light. The crops grew in steady harmony. The wind passed softly over the fields, carrying with it the same scent of blossoming reeds. But beneath this outward serenity, R.A. sensed the imbalance growing. Order, Ma'at, was disturbed. Even the gods could feel it. The gentle winds of Shu wavered. The mists of Tefnut thickened unpredictably. Geb's earth trembled with faint, uncertain pulses. Nut's starry canopy flickered with a subtle unease. The shift was not chaotic, but it was undeniable. R.A. knew the time had come for his response. Not out of anger, but necessity. Balance had to be restored, and the world needed to be reminded of the divine thread that held it together. He closed his eyes, letting his consciousness drift into the deeper layers of his being, into the place where his power extended beyond the gentle warmth of sunlight. There, within the heart of his divine essence, rested another aspect of himself, older than dawn, fierce as judgment, watchful as truth itself. This aspect was the eye of R.A. The eye was not a separate being at first. It was an extension of Ra's will, his authority made manifest. It represented the part of him that observed, protected, corrected, and judged. The eye was as ancient as creation, and as brilliant as the first spark of existence. When R.A. summoned it, he did not call upon something outside himself. He awakened a focused beam of his own power. But in Egyptian myth, the eye often took form, a living, divine being who carried out Ra's wishes with precision and loyalty. Sometimes the eye appeared as Hathor, the goddess of love and joy, who could become fearsome when justice was required. Other times, she manifested as Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, fierce, swift, and unstoppable. And when Ra's sorrow turned toward divine resolve, it was Sekhmet who stirred within the eye, the embodiment of righteous fury hidden beneath the warmth of the sun. As Ra awakened the eye, the air around him shimmered with a glowing heat. The warmth deepened, thickening into a radiant pulse. The gods felt it before they saw it. Shu's winds grew still. Tefnut's mist parted. Nut's starlight dimmed. Geb held his ground as though bracing for the weight of something powerful. The world paused with expectation, as if nature itself had taken a slow, cautious breath. From the shimmering halo of Ra's light, a form began to rise. It emerged like a figure stepping out from the sun's heart, brilliant, graceful, powerful. At first, the shape was soft, undefined, surrounded by a halo of pure gold. Then, as the light condensed, the contours sharpened into a divine feminine silhouette. A roar hummed beneath the surface of creation, too low to frighten, but strong enough to announce a presence unlike any other. Sekhmet stood upon the earth. Her eyes gleamed with the brilliant fire of the sun. Her hair flowed like molten gold. Her skin glowed with a heat that shimmered in waves. She was beautiful in a way that inspired, or rather than comfort. Her expression held both the tenderness of divine purpose and the intensity of unwavering judgment. She embodied everything Ra needed in this moment: loyalty, strength, swiftness, and the ability to restore balance when harmony had been disturbed. Ra looked upon her not with fear, but with solemn respect. He saw his power reflected in her, distilled into its purest, sharpest form. The world, too, felt her presence. The winds bowed. The sands grew still. Even the rivers seemed to pause for a heartbeat. Sekhmet's arrival was not a disruption. It was a necessary awakening, the emergence of balance answering imbalance. She bowed her head, acknowledging Ra as her source. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft yet resonant, like a distant roar carried through the desert. She did not ask why she had been summoned. She already knew. The weight of human ingratitude, the threads of doubt, the drifting hearts, all of it lay within her awareness. She was the Eye, and nothing hidden from Ra remained hidden from her. Ra spoke to her in a voice that held both sorrow and resolve. He explained the unrest among humanity, their gradual distancing, their quiet rebellion. He did not command vengeance. He did not request destruction. His words were calm, tinged with sadness, carried by the desire to restore order rather than punish. Sekhmet listened with unwavering attention. Within her fiery gaze, Ra could see the reflection of his own wounds, wounds not of flesh but of trust. She understood that humans were not enemies, but their actions threatened the delicate balance that sustained life. And in her understanding, she felt a divine purpose rising through her like a slow-building flame. She assured Ra that she would restore balance, that she would return harmony to the world, and that humanity would remember the reverence they had forgotten. Her confidence was not arrogance. It was a natural certainty of a being born from divine authority. She was the embodiment of justice in motion. Ra, though comforted by her determination, felt a subtle weight settle in his heart. He knew the Eye was powerful, perhaps more powerful than even the gods could predict once unleashed. And Sekhmet, though loyal, carried within her ferocity that could outpace caution if not guided carefully. Still, Ra trusted her. His world needed her. As she stepped toward the land, the ground beneath her warmed. Her presence radiated a quiet intensity, like the sun concentrated into a single beam. She moved with calm purpose, her steps light but deliberate. She was not yet wrathful. She was observant, evaluating the world she was meant to protect. Humans felt her before they saw her. Their hearts stirred with an ancient instinct, something between awe and caution. They sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a ripple of divine energy. Yet they did not understand its meaning. They had not yet seen the shape of judgment returning to their world. Sekhmet continued forward, her gaze steady, her purpose clear. She was the Eye of Ra awakened, an extension of his will, come to restore what had been disturbed. And though the world still rested in calm, a new energy begun to flow beneath the surface, like the quiet tremor before a long-awaited storm. Ra watched from afar, his light dimming softly as he reflected on the choice he had made. He hoped for balance, for understanding, for correction. not devastation. Yet the eye, once awakened, follows its own current, guided by justice but fueled by divine fire. The world was about to experience a side of Ra it had forgotten existed. The protector, the judge, the sun whose warmth could turn fierce when harmony was threatened. The gentle era had ended, the eye had opened, and the story of humanity was about to enter a new, intense chapter, one that would test the strength of the world's foundations and measure the heart of creation itself. Sekhmet moved across the land with quiet, simmering intensity, her presence gliding like heat rising off desert sands. Though she was born from Ra's light, she carried a different essence, a sharper radiance, the brilliance of a sunbeam focused into a single, powerful point. In her earliest steps, she was still controlled, still guided by the intention to restore balance rather than harm. But the heart of the eye, once awakened, feels injustice as deeply as the desert feels the sun, and humanity's rebellion flickered within her awareness like a spark drifting toward dry reeds. As she approached the settlements where humans gathered, the air thickened with a tension that even the simplest creatures could sense. Birds flew low and silent. Jackals paused in their tracks. The wind stilled as though the world itself was waiting. Humans looked up from their daily tasks, carrying water from the river, grinding grain, tending fires, and felt an unfamiliar presence tighten around their hearts. They turned their eyes toward the horizon, where a golden shimmer was slowly moving closer. They had forgotten what it meant to face divine judgment. When Sekhmet arrived among them, her form radiated with a beauty so fierce it was almost painful to behold. Her eyes glowed like twin suns reflected on polished bronze. The air around her warped with heat, making her appear almost like a mirage come to life. But she was no illusion. She was the eye, purposeful and unwavering. Her gaze swept across humanity with a clarity that pierced through flesh and bone, seeing not their actions but the intentions behind them. She saw their pride, their doubt, their quiet dismissal of Ra's guiding presence. She saw their belief that they could stand apart from the order that had shaped them, and in that moment, the ember within Sekhmet ignited. What began as divine purpose shifted into a fierce, consuming flame, an instinct to correct imbalance so absolute that it felt like destiny. Her roar echoed across the plains, not deafening but deep, a low reverberation that shook the sand and rippled across the Nile. It was the sound of justice awakened, of fire fed by divine sorrow. Humanity fled in fear. They scattered into fields, hid behind stone huts, ran into the reeds by the river. But Sekhmet was not guided by malice or the thrill of the hunt. She was guided by the pure, undiluted intent of the eye. Wherever she walked, her heat scorched the earth, leaving trails of cracked soil beneath her feet. Her breath was like the desert wind at its peak, dry, hot, relentless. Ra watched from above, his heart tightening as he saw the eye's power unfolding. He had hoped for correction, not devastation, but the eye was acting according to the truth she perceived. Humanity had threatened Ma'at, the fundamental balance of existence, and the eye corrected imbalance without hesitation. What followed became known as the Day of Slaughter. Yet even here, let the narrative remain calm, not violent or harsh, but reflective, like watching a story unfold from a gentle distance. Sekhmet moved swiftly, her presence overwhelming, her strength absolute. Humans fell before her divine fire, their rebellion extinguished as quickly as it had emerged. The land darkened beneath her steps. The winds of Shu trembled. The mists of Tefnut withdrew. Even the skies seemed to dim as Nut watched the unfolding scene with quiet sorrow. The earth drank deeply of the blood that touched it, and Geb's surface warmed with the heat of divine wrath. But in the stillness of this intensity, something shifted within R.A. He had acted out of necessity, but he had also acted out of emotion, hurt, disappointment, quiet sorrow. As he watched the eye carry out his will, he realized the depth of what he had unleashed. Sekhmet was not simply correcting imbalance. She was becoming consumed by the fire of her purpose. The more she tasted humanity's fear and blood, the more powerful and unstoppable she became. Her strength fed her certainty, and her certainty fed her momentum. R.A. understood then that if he did not intervene, the world he had created with care would unravel. Humanity would be lost. The balance he cherished would tip beyond recovery. But stopping the eye was not a simple matter. Sekhmet was not a tool. She was a living force, divine, intelligent, powerful. He could not command her to cease without risking a fracture in creation itself. She would resist, believing she acted in perfect alignment with Ma'at. Ra needed another way. He retreated into deep contemplation, reaching into the wisdom older than his own emergence. The solution he found was not one of force, but of subtlety, a way to redirect the eye's power without confronting it head-on. The gods assembled at his call. They saw the devastation unfolding, the spreading path of Sekhmet's wrath, and listened as Ra revealed his plan. He commanded that a great quantity of beer be brewed, but not ordinary beer. It would be colored with red ochre until it resembled blood, shimmering with a deep, earthy crimson. Ra knew Sekhmet's senses were sharpened by the energy of battle. She followed the scent of life, of heat, of vitality. If she believed the red beer was blood, she might drink it, and if she drank enough, her ferocity would soften into intoxicated calm. The gods worked swiftly. The brewers mixed vast vats of beer with red pigment until the liquid glowed like fresh pools upon the desert floor. Under the cover of night, they carried the heavy jars to the fields where Sekhmet was expected to pass. They poured the beer across the earth, creating great shimmering puddles that reflected the dim starlight like dark, still lakes. When dawn arrived, Sekhmet approached the fields, her steps heavy with divine heat. She paused as she saw the red pool spread across the ground. The scent touched her senses, potent and enticing. To her sharpened perception, it felt alive, warm, fresh. She lowered her head and tasted the surface. It was not blood, but she did not know. The flavor was rich, intoxicating, sweet with the essence of grain and fermentation. The more she drank, the more warmth spread through her. The fire within her softened, not extinguished but mellowed, becoming waves of heavy calm. She drank deeply, her earlier fury dissolving into a haze of relaxation. Eventually, her limbs grew heavy, her eyes softened. The golden flames that once burned in her gaze dimmed into gentle embers. She sank to the ground, her ferocity washed away by the river of red beer. The land fell quiet again, as though exhaling after a long-held breath. Humanity, trembling and humbled, emerged slowly from hiding. They gazed upon the goddess resting in peaceful stupor, her destructive path halted by divine cleverness rather than force. Ra looked down with a mixture of relief and regret. Balance had been restored, but at a cost. The world had seen both the warmth of his guidance and the intensity of his judgment. Humanity had learned reverence through fear, and Ra had learned the danger of unleashing the eye without restraint. The desert winds began to stir again. The mists of Tefnut returned. The stars of Nut brightened. Geb's surface cooled beneath gentle twilight. Sekhmet slept, her fire hushed, and the world for a moment rested in fragile peace. When the red beer had done its work and Sekhmet finally slipped into a deep, dream-heavy slumber, a strange quiet settled across the world. It was the kind of quiet that comes after a powerful storm, still, breathless, almost sacred. The winds no longer trembled with tension. The earth no longer quivered beneath divine fire. Even the Nile, which had flowed anxiously during the days of Sekhmet's rampage, calmed into its soft, rhythmic murmur. Light returned, but it felt subdued, careful, as though the world were relearning how to breathe in Ra's presence. Ra watched this quiet from above, his heart a blend of relief and regret. The day of slaughter had passed, and the world still lived. Humanity had been spared, but the innocence of the first golden age had been washed away like footprints swept by the Nile's current. People no longer looked at Ra with the easy trust they once held. They now looked with reverence tinged by fear, upbraided with caution. They had witnessed the weight of divine judgment. And though Sekhmet now slept peacefully, the memory of her fury clung to them like a shadow at dusk. Ra felt the change deeply. The bond he shared with humanity, once warm and effortless, was altered. He had acted to protect balance, but in doing so, he had fractured something delicate. He sensed that if he continued to walk among humans as before, their fear would never fade. They would never speak freely in his presence. Their prayers would tremble. Their hearts would shrink rather than open. And so, with a heaviness that settled into the core of his divine essence, Ra made a choice. He would leave the earth. He would ascend into the heavens and rule from above, his light guiding the world without his physical presence overshadowing humanity. The earth would remain his creation, but the closeness that once defined the golden age would become memory. He would become the sun in the sky, ever present, ever watching, but distant enough for life to flourish without fear of his footsteps. The gods gathered when they sensed his decision drifting to the fabric of creation. Shu's gentle wind circled him like a protective halo, whispering concern. Tefnut's mist shimmered around his light with a quiet, pleading coolness. Nut, stretching endlessly across the sky, felt his intention resonate through her starry body, and her glow softened in sorrow. Geb, firm and grounded, resonated with the weight of what humanity would lose. Even the slumbering Sekhmet stirred faintly, as though some inner thread still tied her to the will of her creator. R.A. spoke softly, his voice carrying the calm gravitas of the dawn. He explained that the world had grown, and humanity needed space to develop without the fear of his direct gaze. He expressed that the age of walking among them had passed. He would take his place in the sky so that his light could nourish them from afar, giving warmth without danger, guidance without intimidation. The gods listened in silence, sensing the truth in his decision. The world had shifted. Its cycles had changed. A new era was beginning, one marked not by Ra's physical presence, but by a celestial guardianship. R.A. turned his gaze toward the horizon. The first light of morning shimmered across the waters of Nun, gentle, glowing, unhurried. He stepped forward, and as he did, his form began to shift. His radiant body elongated, brightened, and lifted upward with a grace that defied gravity. The warmth surrounding him grew more focused, more circular, more brilliant, until his shape softened into the sphere of the rising sun. The transformation was peaceful, like watching a lantern ascend through early dawn mist. The light did not burn, it warmed. It did not blind, it soothed. The world below watched, humans, animals, gods, the very soil and sky, and felt themselves wrapped in a calm, inevitable wonder. The sun rose, and R.A. was within it. From the sky, R.A. felt the world with renewed clarity. He could see everything. The rivers that glimmered like ribbons of silver, the villages scattered like beads across the land, the fields shimmering with dew, the wandering herds, the distant dunes rippling beneath the breeze. He could watch humanity without overwhelming them, offering light instead of judgment, warmth instead of presence. This was his new throne. The heavens were his realm now, and the sun was his vessel. But with ascension came responsibility. The movement of the sun from horizon to horizon became his daily duty, a cycle that balanced time itself. By day he would sail across the sky, bringing light, life, and clarity. By night he would ascend into the underworld, guiding creation through darkness, protecting from chaos, and returning reborn at dawn. This cycle, endless, rhythmic, serene, became the foundation of the world's order. Day and night, light and shadow, life and rest, all tied to Ra's eternal journey. Humanity watched his ascent with awe. Some wept, believing they had driven their creator away. Others bowed, feeling the weight of divine power settle into sky. But over time, their fear softened into reverence. They saw the sun rise each morning with comforting predictability. They saw crops flourish beneath its warmth. They saw darkness retreat when its light touched the horizon. They slowly learned that Ra's distance was not abandonment, it was protection. Still, the world hummed with the memory of the Golden Age. Stories passed down through generations told of the time when humans walked beside their creator, when the sun itself strolled through villages and fields. These stories carried both nostalgia and humility, reminding each generation that the bond between humans and the divine was delicate, precious, and shaped by responsibility as much as devotion. Back in the heavens, Nut stretched lovingly beneath Ra's new celestial form, becoming the eternal vessel of his journey. Her body arched like a shimmering canopy through which he traveled. Shu, loyal and steady, continued to hold the sky aloft so Ra's path remained open. The entire cosmos shifted to support the new order, the new way of existence. Below, Sekhmet finally woke from her intoxicating slumber, her heat softened but her power intact. Her eyes flickered with recognition, not of guilt, but of transformation. She felt Ra's absence on Earth like a quiet ache, and she understood her part in the change. With time, She would take on new roles, new stories, new forms. But for now, she bowed her head toward the sky, acknowledging the new chapter that had begun. And so, Ra's ascent marked the end of divine closeness and the beginning of divine guardianship. The world would never be the same, but neither would Ra. From his new throne in the heavens, he watched over creation, still loving, still guiding, still present in every sunrise. Just different, just distant enough for humanity to grow. The sun sailed onward, the earth turned gently beneath it, and the sky embraced its eternal traveler. As Ra settled into his new place in the heavens, the world adjusted gently around him, learning the rhythm of his presence as the sun. But the sky, vast and endlessly stretching above the earth, was not simply an empty expanse. It needed structure, pathways, vessels, a sense of motion that reflected Ra's divine purpose. Creation itself required a means for the sun to travel, for its light to move in harmony with the cycles of the world. And so, in the soft unfolding of cosmic design, the solar bark came into being. The ancient Egyptians did not imagine the sun drifting passively across the sky. To them, Ra traveled with intention, with grace, with ceremony. His journey was not solitary. It was a voyage through realms both familiar and mysterious. And for such a voyage, Ra required a vessel worthy of divine light, a bark, shimmering and majestic, carved from the essence of cosmic order itself. The first of these vessels was the man-jet, the day bark. It appeared not as a physical ship built from wood or reed, but as a radiant craft woven from brilliance and divine energy. Its hull glowed like polished gold warmed by the morning sun. Its curved sides shimmered with hues of amber and deep honey. Symbols of protection and harmony were etched into its form not by hand, but by the natural unfolding of its essence. The air around it hummed softly, a resonance felt more than heard. When Ra stepped into the man-jet for the first time, the bark responded like a living being awakened by his presence. Light wrapped around it, lifting it gently, and the vessel drifted forward across the sky's boundless sea. Below, the world watched in awe as the sun began its first divine journey from horizon to horizon, no longer a figure walking the earth, but a radiant traveler sailing the sky. The man-jet's journey was serene. Each morning, Ra rose from the eastern horizon, guiding the bark upward with quiet assurance. The sky brightened in layers of gold and rose, as though waking gradually from a deep slumber. Birds took flight, their wings catching the first touches of light. The river stirred with gentle ripples, and humanity welcomed the warmth with gratitude, knowing the sun's daily voyage brought life to every corner of the land. But Ra's celestial journey did not end with the day. When dusk approached and the man-jet neared the western horizon, the world softened into twilight. Shadows lengthened across the earth. The sky turned shades of lavender, sapphire, and deepening indigo. As the sun descended, the gods prepared the second vessel, the Mesektet, the night bark. Unlike the man-jet, which shone with bright, golden radiance, the Mesektet carried a quieter, deeper glow. It was darker, richer, resembling the mysterious beauty of a moonlit river or the glimmer of stars upon still water. Its hull seemed carved from obsidian and starlight, its surface reflecting faint, shifting patterns like constellations drifting across a polished mirror. The Mesektet held its own power, less warm, more introspective, like the gentle heartbeat of night. Ra transitioned from the man-jet to the Mesektet as the sky folded into darkness. The moment was subtle, quiet, almost meditative. As he stepped onto the night vessel, the world below dipped into softness. The air cooled, the earth exhaled. Night wrapped itself around all living things like a comforting cloak. On Mesektet, Ra did not travel alone. Gods, guardians, and divine spirits accompanied him, each with a role to play in guiding the bark through the Duat, the underworld. This was not a descent into terror, but a voyage to the hidden layers of existence, a realm where souls traveled and stars were born. The Egyptians imagined this journey not as a battle, but as a cycle, a necessary passage through darkness that allowed dawn to return. Ra understood that night was not merely the absence of day. It was a space of renewal, of reflection, of quiet protection. As he traveled through the Duat, he comforted the spirits who wandered there, offering light to guide them. He faced the challenges of the unseen world with patience, not aggression. Every hour of the night served a purpose. Every stretch of darkness brought the universe closer to rebirth. The solar barks became symbols of eternal order. Through them, RA maintained a balance between day and night, light and shadow, life and mystery. Each vessel represented a different aspect of his nature, his warmth in the Manjet, his wisdom in the Mesektet. Together, they formed a cycle that never ceased. Humanity soon learned to interpret the sky through Ra's journey. The rising sun signaled beginnings, work, hope, renewal. Its slow arc across the heavens marked the passing of hours, the growth of crops, the rhythms of daily life. Sunset reminded them of rest, reflection, and trust in Ra's nightly voyage. They understood that even when the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, he continued his work, guiding creation through the unseen. For the Egyptians, the solar barks were more than mythic imagery. They were cosmic truth. They represented motion in a world that once knew only stillness. They gave meaning to the cycles that shaped life. They reminded people that darkness and light were partners, not rivals, and that Ra's journey through each realm ensured harmony would always return. Up in the heavens, RA felt a sense of purpose settling into place. Though he was no longer walking the earth, he was closer to it in a different way, touching every corner with his presence as he sailed above and below. The sky became his domain, the dew his nightly path, the sun his eternal form. And so each day, RA continued to rise, sail, descend, and return. The Manjet gliding across the sky with radiant warmth. The Mesektet drifting through the underworld with quiet light. Two vessels, two realms, one eternal cycle. A rhythm steady as breath. A balance gentle as dawn. A story told not in words, but in light. When the first soft glow of dawn touched the horizon, RA rose gently into the sky aboard the Manjet, beginning his journey across the world. The day did not burst forth with sudden brilliance. Instead, light unfurled slowly, like a warm breath drifting over the land. The colors deepened, cool blues turning into golden hues, shadows stretching and then softening as Ra's presence grew stronger. As the Manjet ascended, everything beneath responded with a sense of calm anticipation. The early morning air carried a delicate chill that lifted as sunlight settled upon it. Dew on the reeds shimmered like tiny jewels. Birds began their morning songs, soft chirps, gentle coos, wings brushing the breeze. The Nile awakened, its waters catching the sun's light and scattering it into dancing reflections that drifted along the river's surface. R.A., in the Manjet, moved with steady quietness, offering warmth and clarity to every corner of the land. To the people below, the sun's journey across the sky felt like a blessing cast upon their lives. Farmers stepped into their fields, their shadows long and soft behind them. Fishermen pushed their small boats into the gentle river, letting the current take them toward deeper waters. Children played in the warm sand, laughing beneath the sunlight that wrapped them like a protective embrace. They understood, even without words, that the sun's movement shaped the rhythm of their day, guiding when to work, when to rest, when to return home. High above, on the Manjet, R.A. looked over all of creation. He felt the hum of life beneath him, the steady pulse of a world illuminated by his presence. His light reached forests of palms, villages of mud-brick homes, hidden paths through desert dunes, and the bustling markets where people exchanged goods with cheerful voices. He saw the harmony his light created, life awakening, growing, thriving in response to his glow. The gods who accompanied him on the Manjet moved with him like unseen guardians. Some maintained the smooth path of the solar journey, keeping the sky clear and calm. Others watched the world below, ensuring that life continued in balance. Their presence was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet their roles were essential. The Manjet never wavered, never faltered, for divine hands kept it steady, as though the sky itself supported the vessel's graceful drift. As R.A. sailed higher toward midday, the light shifted in strength. It became brighter, more direct, though never harsh. The warmth deepened and spread across the land like a gentle wave. Plants lifted themselves, leaves opening wide to receive the sun's nourishment. The desert sand shimmered softly, golden grains reflecting light in tiny, radiant sparkles. Even the stones of ancient cliffs glowed with a quiet amber tone, warmed by Ra's approach. Midday was a sacred moment, the world fully open, fully illuminated. Ra's presence at the height of the sky represented clarity, power, and guidance, yet the feeling that descended upon the world was not overwhelming. It was steady, reliable, comforting. People understood this moment as one of strength, when the land was fully alive beneath the sun's watchful gaze. Still, Ra's journey was not hurried. Even as the man jet moved toward the zenith, there was no rush. The pace of the day remained slow and peaceful, like a story being told in long, calming breaths. Time itself seemed to stretch gently, allowing those beneath the sun to savor the warmth and stillness that filled their daily lives. As afternoon arrived, the light softened once again. Shadows lengthened tenderly across the earth, stretching toward the east as Ra's vessel drifted westward. The wind cooled, moving in soft, rhythmic patterns across the riverbanks. Farmers began to gather their tools. Fishermen returned with baskets of shimmering fish. The sounds of human life shifted from the energy of morning to the gentle winding down of evening preparations. R.A. watched all of this from the man-jet, his presence steady and serene. Being the sun was not merely providing light. It was offering reassurance. It was being a guide. It was reminding creation that order remained intact, that time flowed smoothly, that every day had its beginning, its middle, and its peaceful end. R.A. continued this journey with a deep, calm purpose, knowing that his light touched every being, whether human, animal, or divine. The gods aboard the man-jet were also attuned to the shift in daylight. Some began preparing for the transition that awaited them at the western horizon. They polished the edges of the vessel with soft glimmers of divine energy. They whispered to the breezes that would soon cool the world. They ensured that the sky remained clear enough for the final light of day to settle gently across the land. As R.A. approached the west, he felt the weight of the day settle into a quiet, satisfying rhythm. The man-jet gently descended toward the horizon, its golden glow softening into hues of amber, rose, and deep tangerine. The sky became a canvas of blended colors, spreading across the heavens like a painting made of warmth and memory. People below paused to watch the sun's descent, their faces calm, their hearts steady. The setting sun marked completion, reflection, and the promise of the cycle's return. The world beneath the man-jet glowed with rich, mellow light. The Nile shimmered like molten gold. The palm trees cast long, graceful silhouettes. Animals wandered toward shelter. The chatter of markets softened into murmurs. Children were called back into their homes. Meals simmered in clay pots, filling the air with comforting scents that mingled with the coolness of approaching night. As R.A. neared the horizon, he felt the veil between the worlds thinning. Ahead lay the entrance to the Duat, the underworld to which the night bark, the Mesektet, awaited him. This transition was not frightening. It was part of the eternal rhythm, the gentle shift from day to night, from activity to rest, from illumination to introspection. The man-jet glided gracefully toward the edge of the sky. At that moment, R.A. offered the world a final warm glow, a soft farewell that touched fields, villages, and desert alike. It was a moment that felt like a calm sigh, a gentle drifting into evening. And when the sun finally slipped below the horizon, the man-jet released its light and dissolved into twilight, ready to be reborn with the next dawn. Night settled in, and Ra's journey carried on, quietly, peacefully, just in another realm. As the man-jet drifted closer to the western horizon, the world sank into a mellow hush, as if everything, trees, river, sand, and sky, were joining in a single long exhale. The heat of the day loosened its grip, slipping softly from the earth like warm breath fading into the evening breeze. Shadows grew longer and stretched like sleepy limbs preparing to rest. The village sounds softened. Conversations quieted to murmurs, animals settled, and distant footsteps slowed into gentle rhythms. This time between day and night carried a fragile stillness of its own, a threshold moment where the sun no longer ruled the sky, yet darkness had not fully arrived. The ancient Egyptians imagined this as the world's eyelids slowly closing, preparing for a peaceful descent into dreams. And it was during this tender time that R.A. felt the shift most deeply, a slow transition not just in the sky, but within his own divine presence. The man-jet glowed with a softening radiance. It no longer blazed with the full brilliance of midday. Instead, its glow resembled the warm embers of a hearth, comforting and subdued. R.A. stood at the helm, his light mellow and reflective, like a warm memory fading gently before the night takes its place. The gods who accompanied him were quiet, each preparing for the change in the journey, aware that soon they would cross the boundary that separated the familiar world from the hidden realms of the Duat. The sky transformed into breathtaking gradients of color. Soft amber melted into rose, rose into gentle mauve, and mauve into deepening indigo. Wisps of cloud stretched thin across the heavens, tinted with delicate hues that shimmered like gentle strokes from an unseen painter's brush. These moments of dusk were considered sacred, neither fully light nor fully dark, neither the domain of humanity nor the realm of wandering spirits. It was a time of balance, of crossing from one truth into another. Below, the land responded to the fading sunlight. The Nile mirrored the sky's colors, rippling with streaks of gold and lavender. The palms along its banks swayed quietly, their silhouettes etched against the deepening twilight. Dust stirred softly from the feet of animals returning to shelters, the air cooling around them like the soft settling of a blanket. The world seemed to pause, savoring these last gentle fragments of the day. Ra's heart absorbed this stillness. Unlike the vibrant movement of daytime, twilight invited reflection. He sensed the world's gratitude. Even now, long after the first golden age, humans lit small lamps in their homes, tiny flickers of borrowed light that honored the fading sun. They watched the sky's colors fade with reverence, knowing that Ra's descent was not an end, but passage into another essential journey. As the man-jet glided downward, the gods on board prepared for the moment of transition. Sia, the embodiment of perception, stood watchful, sensing the subtle shift in energies as day gave way to night. Heka, god of magic, whispered quiet incantations that protected Ra's journey from unseen disturbances. Hu, the voice of divine command, moved in a meditative silence, aware that night required a new rhythm, one gentler, quieter, yet filled with purpose. The western mountains lifted in the distance, dark and majestic, marking the gateway through which R.A. would descend. These mountains were not mere stone. They were symbolic guardians of the horizon, thresholds to the hidden world beneath. To ancient eyes, it was as if the sun slipped beneath the protective embrace of the earth, guided into the realm of night. As R.A. approached, the horizon shimmered with a faint glow, an invitation and a farewell. The final rays of sunlight stretched across the world, draping everything in a golden softness that felt almost like a goodbye touch. Humans paused in their tasks, watching the sun sink lower, their hearts recognizing the familiar comfort of this transition. Even those who no longer remember the age when R.A. walked among them felt this moment deeply, sensing the divine rhythm beneath their everyday lives. The air grew cooler, brushing gently against Ra's divine form. The man-jet slowed, hovering at the edge of the world. The boundary between realms felt thin, almost porous. Time seemed to stretch, delicate and slow, as if encouraging all creation to savor this final breath of day before the night opened its gates. R.A. stepped from the man-jet, not as a sudden shift, but as a smooth, graceful transition. His light dimmed into a softer glow, warm but no longer outwardly radiant. It was as though he withdrew his brilliance inward, preserving it for the journey to come. The gods followed, their steps quiet, their expression serene. They knew that the next phase, the descent into the Duat, required calm preparation, for night had its own mysteries, its own guardians, its own rhythm of existence. Behind them, the man-jet dissolved gently into the twilight, its purpose for the day complete. The vessel's golden essence faded into the colors of dusk, waiting to be reborn with the next dawn. Its disappearance carried no sorrow. It was simply the natural ebb of cosmic order, as gentle and assured as the setting sun itself. Night approached, not with fear, but with quiet grandeur. Stars began to appear, first one, then several, then a steady unfolding of shimmering lights across Nut's vast celestial body. Each star glimmered softly, as if welcoming R.A. into the hidden hours. The sky darkened into a deep, calming blue, like soft velvet stretched across the heavens, dotted with serene points of light. Below, the world eased into silence. Lamps flickered in homes. Children curled into blankets. Animals rested in shaded dens. The river's surface grew smooth, carrying the cool reflection of the stars. The air felt tender, filled with a hush that encouraged peace and dreams. And in this gentle descent toward nightfall, R.A. prepared for a journey unlike the day. A journey through shadow, through mystery, to the quiet heart of existence. His light had guided the earth. Now it would guide the unseen. The world, knowing he would return with dawn, drifted calmly into night. As the last hues of twilight faded and the first stars began to shimmer upon the sky, like scattered drops of silver, R.A. stepped fully into the threshold of night. The familiar world of day slipped behind him, softened into a distant glow. Ahead lay a realm unlike any other. The Duat, the vast and mysterious underworld that stretched beneath the horizon. It was a place the living could not see, yet they felt its presence in quiet hours of night, in the stillness that settled over the world like a gentle veil. The transition from sunset to the entrance of the Duat was not abrupt. It unfolded slowly, like stepping from a warm room into a cool corridor, where every sound becomes hushed and the air carries a different kind of weight. Around R.A., the landscape began to shift. The colors of dusk melted into deep indigo and then into a darkness that was not empty but rich with unseen movement and potential. The air itself seemed to thicken with mystery, soft yet potent, as though night held its breath in reverence for what was about to begin. R.A. walked calmly toward the entrance of the hidden realm, his light dim but steady, glowing like a lantern cupped carefully in a traveler's hands. The gods accompanying him moved in quiet formation, their presence gentle but purposeful. Their steps did not echo. The ground beneath them felt different, less like earth or stone, and more like a dream made solid, shifting subtly as though responding to their divine presence. The doorway into the Duat appeared not as a physical gate, but as a softening of the horizon, a thinning of the boundary between realities. One moment the world was dark. The next it revealed a passage bathed in faint luminescence, as though moonlight had pooled into a river of pale gold. This was a point where day ended and night truly began, where the sun god's journey transformed from illumination to protection. As R.A. stepped closer, the glow around him gently intensified, not in harsh brightness but in quiet assurance. The Duat welcomed him the way a vast, ancient cavern might welcome a single flame, respectfully, expectantly. It was a realm that understood his presence, revered his purpose, and awaited his passage each night as part of the eternal cosmic rhythm. When R.A. entered the Duat, the landscape changed around him like a dream, shifting from one scene to another. The surface world disappeared, replaced by broad pathways that wound through cavernous expanses and serene waterways. Each path seemed to ripple with meaning, lined with symbols carved into the very fabric of the realm. Glyphs that glowed faintly, as though tracing the stories of countless souls who had passed through these halls. The Duat was not a place of terror. It was a place of transition, a realm between worlds where the living did not tread, but the dead journeyed toward renewal. The ancient Egyptians imagined it not as a hellish abyss, but as a spiritual landscape woven with rivers, gates, guardians, and chambers of profound significance. It was a place where life and death touched hands quietly, where the unseen currents of existence flowed in delicate harmony. The soft glow of Ra's presence illuminated the path ahead. His light revealed gentle rivers flowing like streams of ink beneath shimmering reflections. Trees appear along the edges of the waterways. Not earthly trees, but ethereal forms with translucent leaves that rustled without wind. They shimmered softly, glowing like fireflies drifting in the night. The atmosphere felt calm, serene, filled with a sense of ancient wisdom. As R.A. traveled deeper into the underworld, divine guardians emerged from the shadows. They were not creatures of malice, but protectors who ensured that the cosmic cycle unfolded as it should. Some had forms resembling animals, jackals, serpents, or falcons, while others bore the shapes of humans with serene expressions. Their eyes glowed softly as they recognized R.A. They bowed or placed a hand upon their heart in greeting, their movements slow and respectful, as though acknowledging the importance of this nightly journey. The Duat itself seemed to shift gently as R.A. passed, its pathways realigning like quiet currents in a great underground sea. Contours of distant mountains rose and fell with dreamlike fluidity. Pools of still water reflected stars that were not visible in the sky above, stars that seemed to belong to another layer of existence entirely. Sometimes the path narrowed into tunnels carved with intricate designs, and sometimes it opened into vast chambers lit by floating orbs that drifted like warm, radiant lanterns. In these spaces, Ra's light blended with the gentle glow around him, filling the underworld with an atmosphere of calm observance. Souls moved quietly along the edges of his path, shimmering like faint silhouettes. They were not frightening, nor did they reach for him. They simply drifted, peaceful and weightless. Some paused to bask in the warmth of his presence, their forms brightening slightly as if comforted. They recognized R.A. as a guide, a protector, a source of light in the darkness that helped them find their way toward renewal. Every step of Ra's journey carried purpose. Though the world above rested, R.A. remained vigilant. His presence kept the duet steady, ensuring that no forces of chaos disturbed its balance. Being the sun god was not a task completed when daylight ended. It was an eternal responsibility, one that required both strength and serenity as he traversed a hidden night. The sound of the underworld was unlike anything in the mortal realm. It was soft, resonant, like distant echoes moving through miles of stone corridors, harmonizing with the quiet flow of unseen waters. It felt ancient and comforting, like listening to a lullaby sung by the universe itself. Occasionally, a faint hum vibrated through the realm, a pulse of energy that signaled the movement of divine beings or the shifting of spiritual currents. R.A. continued deeper into the duet, his steps steady, his glow unwavering. The gods who accompanied him remained close, their presence forming a quiet circle of protection. Together, they glided through the underworld with a grace that felt almost like floating. The weight of daylight was gone, replaced by the meditative calm of night's hidden journey. As R.A. moved through the realm, he saw symbols of transformation everywhere. Lotus flowers floating on dark waters, their petals closed until dawn. Serpents curled in protective patterns around sacred gateways. Stars etched into the ceilings of great chambers, reminding all who passed that rebirth lay at the end of the night. The duet was a place where endings and beginnings wove together seamlessly, preparing the world for the next sunrise as softly as a dream preparing the mind for waking. Time did not flow in the duet the way it did in the living world. Each chamber felt suspended, unhurried, allowing Ra's journey to unfold with patient tranquility. The pace of the bark was slow and dreamlike, drifting through scenes of cosmic significance with the ease of feather gliding on still air. Yet even in the quiet depths of the underworld, R.A. remained alert. He knew that the duet held both peace and peril. Though it was primarily a realm of transition, there were forces within it that challenged order, forces that would seek to interrupt the cycle of day and night. But those moments belonged to other parts of the journey. For now, the path was calm, illuminated by Ra's gentle presence. As the god of the sun moved through the duet, the world above slept, homes filled with quiet breathing. The Nile rested in cool stillness. Fields lay dark and calm beneath that starry expanse. The world trusted Ra's nightly journey, even without knowing how deeply he traveled on their behalf. And so R.A. continued, deeper into the realm of shadows and quiet waters, carrying with him the promise that dawn would return, that his journey through the underworld was not an end but a bridge between the fading light of day and the gentle bloom of the next sunrise. As R.A. drifted deeper into the duet aboard the Mesectet, the realm around him began to shift once more. Night in the underworld was not a single space but a sequence of realms, 12 hours of dreamlike landscapes, each carrying its own meaning, guardians, and quiet challenges. These hours were not measured by clocks or sand. They were measured by the slow unfolding of cosmic purpose. Each hour a step toward the rebirth of the next dawn. The first hour unfolded like the gentle crossing of a threshold. The Mesectet glided into a river of darkness illuminated by Ra's soft glow. The waters beneath shimmered with faint gold reflections that rippled outward with each stroke of the divine oars. This hour was one of orientation, a moment where the spirits of the duet recognized Ra's presence and adjusted their paths accordingly. Souls moved like drifting lights along the riverbanks, and soft currents carried whispers of ancient prayers. Here, Ra's task was simply to enter, to let his light announce the beginning of the nightly passage. It felt like stepping into a vast dream, letting the boundaries of the waking world slip away. The second hour deepened the journey, guiding the bark into a realm of long, winding corridors carved into the very essence of shadow. These corridors were not cold or foreboding. They resembled the inside of an immense, sacred structure. Glyphs glowed faintly along the walls, telling stories of souls who had traveled before. Guardians with serene expressions stood watching alcoves, their forms part human, part divine. They bowed silently as R.A. passed, their presence calm, their purpose aligned with the cosmic order. The Mesektet moved gently, its glow illuminating symbols that shifted subtly as though responding to the sun god's nearness. The third hour opened into a vast cavern where the ceiling stretched high above like a night sky hidden beneath the earth. Soft lights flickered like stars, though they were not stars as the living knew them. These were spiritual constellations, guiding markers for souls navigating their path. Beneath them, a great expanse of still water mirrored the lights perfectly, creating an ethereal double sky. Ra's presence caused the mirrored stars to ripple softly, as though acknowledging his role in maintaining the order between realms. This hour felt serene, a place of quiet reflection, where even the souls paused to bathe in the gentle warmth of Ra's glow. The fourth hour carried the bark to a region where time itself felt fluid. Shapes drifted through the currents, neither fully formed nor fully dissolved. These were souls in transition, moving toward renewal, shedding fragments of their earthly weight. The waters murmured softly, carrying faint echoes of memories and hopes. Here, Ra's light served as a beacon, helping souls orient themselves toward the next stage of their journey. The Mesektet drifted slowly, its presence soothing, its passage measured and calming, like the slow movement of a lullaby. The fifth hour revealed a realm of guardians, towering figures with solemn eyes, their bodies adorned with intricate patterns of glowing symbols. They stood sentinel along a narrow passageway, ensuring that nothing chaotic could pass into the deeper regions of the Duat. Though their forms were imposing, their expressions were serene, as though their strength existed not to frighten but to protect. As R.A. passed, each guardian lowered their staff in reverence. Their stillness gave the impression of mountains holding their breath, honoring the sun god in his quiet descent. The sixth hour marked the deepest point of the journey, a place of profound stillness. The underworld grew darker here, not with fear, but with the weight of ancient mystery. Even Ra's glow dimmed slightly, not weakened but absorbed into the sacred quiet of the realm. This was the hour where the boundary between life and death was thinnest, where the potential for rebirth rested in fragile balance. The Mesektet drifted slowly, almost silently, through waters as black as obsidian. The gods aboard remained especially watchful, their senses attuned to even the slightest shift. Souls gathered here in quiet clusters, drawn toward Ra's presence as though his light offered a gentle promise of renewal. The seventh hour brought the bark into a region of transition, a place where the darkness of the sixth hour thinned into soft illumination. It was as if dawn existed in miniature here, a faint glimmer rising from the horizon of the underworld. Shapes grew clearer. The waters brightened into subtle gradients of blue and violet. Creatures of the Duat moved gracefully beneath the surface, shimmering with soft luminescence. This hour symbolized the first stirring of awakening, the earliest whisper of the dawn still far ahead. R.A. felt the shift deeply, sensing the cosmic rhythm beginning to tilt gently toward rebirth. The eighth hour carried the bark through a domain where vast gates rose from the waters, each adorned with carved symbols of protection and transformation. These were not gates meant to imprison or divide, but to guide and safeguard. Each gate opened for R.A. as the vessel approached, parting in slow, rhythmic movements that resembled the unfolding of enormous stone petals. At every passage, divine guardians verified the balance of cosmic order, ensuring that Ra's journey remained undisturbed. There was an almost ceremonial elegance to their movements, as though the act of opening each gate was a sacred ritual performed nightly, perfectly aligned with the heartbeat of the universe. The ninth hour bore the Mesektet into a realm where the air shimmered with transformative energy. Here, souls underwent the gentle shedding of their final burdens. They moved toward Ra's glow with quiet trust, their forms becoming clearer as they neared the bark's warm radiance. The waters beneath glimmered with reflections of change, shifting shapes, flowing colors, and subtle pulses of light. Ra's presence guided the process, ensuring that every soul found its way with peace and clarity. This hour carried a sense of hope, like the soft rustling of leaves before sunrise, hinting at the renewal to come. The 10th hour revealed a landscape of quiet fields, though not fields of earth. These were fields woven of pure and spiritual essence, soft plains of silvery mist stretching as far as the eye could see. Souls drifted over these plains like gentle breezes, their forms light and unburdened. The silence here was comforting, like a blanket woven from calm emotions. The Mesektet glided effortlessly, leaving trails of gold that lingered briefly before dissolving into the mist. The realm felt open and expansive, a peaceful resting place before the journey reached its final chapters. The 11th hour brought the bark to a region where the first true glow of dawn shimmered faintly in the distance. Not the dawn of the mortal world, but its promise, subtle, distant, but unmistakable. The waters brightened. The air cooled then warmed, as though the realm itself inhaled in anticipation. Divine beings moved gracefully alongside the bark, their forms glowing with growing brilliance. Ra's own light intensified slightly, responding to the soft call of the coming day. There was a sense of momentum here, a gathering of energy, the final rise before the dawn's rebirth. And finally, the 12th hour embraced the Mesektet in its gentle radiance. Here, the horizon of the underworld curved upward, forming a symbolic passage toward sunrise. The realm shimmered with hues of early dawn, pale gold, soft coral, delicate rose. Ra's glow brightened, filling the chamber with warmth. Souls bowed in gratitude, their paths illuminated by the promise of renewal. The gods prepared for transition, their movements deliberate and serene. The bark lifted gently, guided by divine energies into the final stretch that connected night to day. In this last hour, R.A. felt the stirring of transformation within himself. His form began to shift, preparing for the rebirth that would take him from the underworld back into the sky of the living world. It was a quiet transformation, filled with purpose and grace, like the sun rising within the center of his being. And so the 12 hours passed, slowly, softly, steadily. Each hour a dreamlike realm, each realm a step toward dawn, each step a reminder that darkness is not an end, but a passage. The Mesektet rose gently, carrying R.A. toward the moment of rebirth, toward the horizon where night gives way to day, where the world waits for the first light of morning, and where the eternal cycle begins anew. Deep within the Duat, where shadows drifted like slow waves and ancient waters murmured secrets older than memory, there existed a presence that moved against the gentle order of the underworld. No matter how serene the realm appeared, no matter how carefully Ra's light guided the Mesektet across its hidden pathways, something always stirred in the outer edges of darkness. Something vast, coiling, and eternal. It was the presence of Apophis, the great serpent of chaos. The ancient Egyptians saw Apophis not as an enemy born from malice or envy, but as an embodiment of the forces that oppose order itself. He was the darkness that refuses to yield to dawn, the stillness that resists motion, the raw chaos that lies beneath creation's delicate balance. And every night, as R.A. journeyed through the Duat, this serpent stirred, driven not by hatred but by an instinct as old as the universe, to pull light back into nothingness, to unravel the structure of the cosmos. In the quiet hours of the night, when the Mesektet glided steadily through sacred waters, the first signs of Apophis's awakening appeared. The air grew heavier, as though the darkness deepened around the bark. The gentle hum of the Duat shifted into a low, distant vibration, like the drumbeat of an ancient pulse rising from deep within the earth. The waters stilled, their surface becoming glossy and unmoving, as though bracing for a presence that stretched beyond physical boundaries. R.A. stood at the center of the bark, his glow soft but unwavering. He felt the shift not as fear, but as a familiar echo, a nightly reminder of the delicate balance he upheld. The gods around him sensed it too. Sia, the essence of perception, sharpened his awareness. Heka's magic glimmered faintly, coiling around the bark like a quiet protective haze. Even the guardians stationed at the bow straightened their posture, not with alarm but with calm readiness. Apophis approached slowly, not in a rush or a burst of violence, but like the tide of a great, shadowed ocean rising inch by inch. His body stretched across the underworld's distant horizon, vast, dark, and shimmering with scales that absorbed what little light drifted through the realm. Each scale glowed faintly with deep crimson veins, like smoldering embers pulsing beneath obsidian stone. His eyes opened gradually, revealing enormous pupils that glimmered with a cold, ancient stillness. Despite his immense size and fearsome form, the atmosphere remained strangely calm. There was no screaming wind, no violent quake. Instead, a heavy silence swept across the realm, as though the Duet itself held its breath. Apophis's presence was powerful, overwhelming, but not frantic. He moved with purpose, with inevitability, as if his existence was simply another part of the cosmic rhythm. The serpent lifted his enormous head, rising from the depths of the Duet. His body coiled through cavernous shadows, each movement slow and deliberate, like a black river turning upon itself. As he drew nearer, the faint light from Ra's bark reflected along the serpent's length in broken glimmers, brief flashes that made Apophis appear even larger, his form stretching into eternity. Around the Mesektet, the waters began to tremble, their surface breaking into delicate ripples. Yet the gods did not panic. This nightly confrontation, though immense in scale, unfolded with a kind of solemn familiarity. It was not a battle born from anger, but a necessary balancing of two ancient forces, light and shadow, creation and unmaking, order and chaos. Ra's light brightened slightly, not with heat, but with clarity. The glow that emanated from him softened the surrounding darkness, pressing gently against the shadows that Apophis carried with him. The serpent's movements paused, as though considering the radiance before him. In that moment, Ra did not look like a warrior or a judge. He looked like the sun at dawn, calm, centered, inevitable. Apophis's mouth opened slowly, revealing fangs that glistened like polished stone and a breath that rolled forward in a cool, misty wave. Yet the mist was not hostile. It carried with it the scent of ancient waters, deep and untouched. His gaze locked onto Ra, not with hatred, but with an instinctual pull, as though the very presence of the sun disrupted the stillness he represented. The gods aboard the bark reacted in gentle coordination. They lifted protective symbols etched into fabric of divine magic. Words of power flowed through the air, soft, rhythmic incantations that vibrated like chanted lullabies. These were not violent spells. They were reminders of order, of the truth that light and life must continue. Apophis moved closer, the waters swirling around his massive coils. Shadows rippled outward from his form, reaching for the bark. But Ra's light met them with calm steadiness, dissolving their edges like morning sun melting fog. The brightness did not burn. It gently unraveled the darkness that sought to tighten around the vessel. For a moment, all was still. The Mesektet drifted silently. The serpent hovered, vast, patient. Ra stood radiating quiet purpose. And then the balance shifted. Ra raised his hand slightly, his light gathering in a soft, expanding glow. It was gentle at first, warm like the earliest rays of sunrise. The glow spread outward, embracing the shadows without force. Apophis recoiled slightly, not in pain, but in response to the gentle inevitability of the light. His form trembled, the darkness around him dispersing into faint wisps. The guardians of the bark stepped forward. Their movements were fluid, almost ritualistic. They extended staffs and blades forged not from metal, but from concentrated symbols of cosmic order. These weapons glimmered with soft halos of light, their presence reinforcing Ra's own. In a single motion, calm but decisive, Ra's radiance expanded fully, creating a wave of light that washed across the serpent's massive form. Apophis unraveled like a dream dissolving upon waking. His coils loosened, his shadowed presence thinning into wisps of darkness that melted into the depths of the Duet. But this dissolution was not destruction. It was a nightly return to dormancy. Apophis faded into the realm from which he had risen, drifting back into the unseen blackness that lined the underworld. His final movement was slow, almost peaceful, like a giant sinking into deep sleep. The waters steadied, the air softened, the Duet exhaled. Ra remained still for a moment, letting the calm settle through the realm. His light dimmed back into its gentle glow, no longer expanded in concentrated radiance. The guardians lowered their staffs. The gods relaxed, their expressions tranquil once again. The Mesektet resumed its quiet drift through the underworld. Apophis would rise again the next night. That was his nature. He was not a force to be eliminated, but a force to be balanced. His presence ensured the cycle remained meaningful. Without challenge, light had no purpose. Without darkness, Dawn held no significance. And so R.A. accepted Apophis' return just as he accepted the rising sun each morning. The serpent was not an enemy to hate. He was part of the eternal rhythm, part of the fragile, beautiful balance that shaped the world. With Apophis subdued and the path ahead clear, the Mesektet continued its gentle glide to the dreamlike realms of the Duat, carrying R.A. closer to the promise of dawn. After Apophis had slipped back into the depths of shadow, the Duat grew quiet again. Not the eerie silence of fear, but a gentle, settling calm, like the stillness that follows a distant storm, when the air feels cool and steady and every sound seems softened by relief. The waters beneath the Mesektet rippled with a soothing pattern, and the faint lights that drifted to the underworld resumed their steady glow, as though the realm itself exhaled. R.A. remained at the center of the bark. His light no longer expanded into the intense radiance that had subdued the serpent. Instead, it settled into a warm, serene glow, calm, steady and patient. His glow did not flicker. It flowed like the quiet flame of a lamp burning late into the night. For R.A., this moment was less a victory than a rebalancing, a gentle reminder that order, once again, had been restored. The gods who accompanied him resumed their places around the bark. Their movements were soft, smooth, and unhurried. Sia closed his eyes briefly, attuning his senses again to the flow of perception within the realm. Heka allowed his protective magic to settle into a calmer form, shifting from active defense to quiet vigilance. Maat herself seemed to drift subtly through the air, unseen yet felt, like the faint brush of a feather passing through a still room. Despite the presence of guardians and powerful magic, R.A. understood that the defeat of Apophis was never truly final. The serpent's retreat was temporary, part of an eternal rhythm. Ra's triumph was neither violent nor celebratory, but mindful, a balancing of forces that would, inevitably, need to be balanced again the next night. This acceptance was not weariness. It was wisdom, the kind that comes from eternity rather than time. The Mesektet continued its journey through the Duat, drifting gently along the shimmering currents. The underworld around them began to reveal new landscapes as they moved farther from the region where Apophis had risen. The waters grew brighter, touched by soft reflections like moonlight scattered across glass. Shapes of ancient hieroglyphs glowed faintly along cavern walls, marking the path forward as though the realm itself whispered encouragement. The 11th hour of the night had passed. The 12th and final hour approached slowly, wrapped in a kind of sacred anticipation. This was the hour not of danger, but of transformation. The hour when R.A. began to shed the last remnants of night and move toward the first breath of dawn. Before that transformation could take place, rituals of balance and protection were performed. These rituals were not dramatic or loud. They were subtle, almost meditative. The gods moved with calm precision, tracing symbols of harmony in the air or dipping their hands into the underworld's quiet waters. Each gesture reinforced a pattern of order that R.A. upheld. One guardian placed his palm against the side of the bark, allowing faint circular ripples of light to drift across its hull. Another stepped forward, raising a blade inscribed with symbols of stillness and peace, then lowering it slowly in a gesture of grounding. These were acts of alignment, ensuring that the bark, the gods, and R.A. himself were attuned to the energy of rebirth waiting ahead. R.A. closed his eyes, not to shield them from darkness, but to feel the quiet pulse of the universe. His awareness expanded, touching every corner of the Duat, sensing the delicate balance that had been restored. The weight of the night's journey settled softly within him, neither heavy nor light, but meaningful. He allowed his glow to brighten just slightly, a gentle preparation for the transformation soon to come. Above the bark, fragments of starlight drifted down like silent blessings. The ceiling of the underworld shimmered with faint constellations, each one reflecting a piece of sky above the living world. These stars were not merely decorations. They were the silent witnesses of Ra's journey, guiding markers that appeared only in the last hour of the night. Their glow felt calm, ancient, and reassuring. As the Mesektet glided forward, R.A. sensed a faint stirring ahead. It was not Apophis, nor any threat. It was a soft call of the horizon, the symbolic threshold where darkness folds itself into light, where endings blend into beginnings. The ancient Egyptians described this moment as the awakening within the underworld, when R.A. began to assume his morning form, preparing to rise as Khepri, the scarab of dawn. But the transformation was never abrupt. It began slowly, gently, like the first stirring of warmth beneath a cold night's blanket. Ra's form grew more luminous, not brighter, but more alive. His shape shimmered, softened, and glowed with a pale gold radiant from within. The god stepped back slightly, giving him space to shift. His presence filled the chamber with a sense of renewal, like the feeling one gets when waking from a long and peaceful dream before opening their eyes. Around him, the waters of the Duat brightened. The reflections on their surface shifted from deep blues into gentle hues of peach and rose. The air warmed slightly, carried with a faint scent of lotus flowers opening after darkness. Even the shadows seemed to soften, curling like smoke that was ready to dissolve into the first light of morning. The gentle rituals continued, quiet chants, soft movements, and slow gestures acknowledging the cosmic rhythm. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Everything unfolded at the pace of dawn itself, calm, patient, and inevitable. R.A. opened his eyes, and their light glowed like the first spark of sunrise pressed behind the horizon. He lifted his hand slightly, and in response, the Mesektet lifted with a serene, fluid motion. The bark rose from the underworld's waters, not sharply but smoothly, as though the realm itself was guiding it upward. In the distance, a soft curve of light appeared. It was not yet dawn. It was a promise of dawn, a pale, luminous arc forming at the edge of the Duat, waiting for R.A. to cross through it. That arc was a symbolic gateway, the final passage between night and day. As the bark approached it, the gods bowed their heads gently. Their expressions held a calm reverence, a serene joy at the sight of the cycle reaching its turning point once again. R.A. stepped forward, his form now glowing with the warm, stirring essence of rebirth. In this moment, R.A. did not feel victory or relief. He felt continuity. He felt the eternal rhythm of creation. The certainty that even after confronting the great serpent of chaos, even after traveling to the deepest layers of the underworld, the world would rise into light once more. Ra's light brightened at last, blooming like a golden flower in slow motion. The Duat glowed. The Mesektet steadied. The horizon opened. And R.A. prepared to ascend, ready to become the dawn that would once again touch the world with warmth, clarity, and gentle renewal. The final moments before dawn in the Duat were unlike any other time in creation. It was a space between breaths, a pause where the universe seemed suspended, neither in darkness nor in light, neither asleep nor awake. The air shimmered gently as the Mesektet approached the luminous curve that marked the boundary between night and day. Every ripple of water, every drifting particle of light, every distant whisper of the underworld felt attuned to a single, growing expectation, the rebirth of R.A. As the bark drifted closer, Ra's form shifted in a way so subtle it felt almost like the stirring of a dream. His glow pulled inward, condensing into a warmth that grew deeper, steadier, more concentrated. The golden light that had accompanied him to the underworld became softer and more intimate, almost like a heartbeat expanding through the realm. The gods aboard the vessel moved with reverent calm, their actions gentle and unhurried as they prepared for the moment that renewed creation itself. The Duat responded with quiet grace. The cavernous walls reflected faint hints of dawn, colors not yet seen in the sky above, but born within the underworld as a promise of what was coming. Blues deepened into soft violets. Purples warmed into rose tones. Shades of gold began to flicker, like small fires kindling in distant corners. The waters beneath the Mesektet glowed with delicate ripples of light, carrying Ra's radiance like a message through the underworld's veins. R.A. stood at the center of the bark, calm and resolute. His figure grew more rounded, more radiant, as though light were collecting inside him in layers. This was the moment of his transformation into Khepri, the morning sun, the symbol of rebirth, the eternal scarab pushing the light of dawn into the world. But the change was not abrupt or jarring. It unfolded like a lotus opening petal by petal, slowly, gently, with quiet beauty that soothed every corner of the realm. His limbs shimmered. His features softened, dissolving into pure light. The shape of a scarab-like form flickered within the glow, not a literal insect, but the essence of pushing forward, of renewing, of rising from the unseen depths. R.A. in this state was not a god of judgment or authority. He was a god of beginnings, of breath, of the gentle persistence that brings morning after every night, no matter how dark. The gods around him watched in silence, their posture filled with serenity. They knew the sacred moment intimately. They witnessed it every night. Yet each time it carried the same awe, the same soft wonder at witnessing the birth of a new day. The ritual was eternal, but it never lost its meaning. The renewal of the sun was the renewal of life. The Mesectet drew nearer to the bright archway. Light spilled from its edges in soft waves, warm but not yet brilliant. It felt like standing at the edge of sleep's final moment, when dreams begin to fade, but waking has not yet arrived. The underworld dimmed behind the bark as its glow strengthened before them. Even the souls of the Duat seemed to gather a respectful distance, glowing faintly, watching in peaceful silence as the sun god prepared to rise again. Ra's transformation continued. His glow expanded outward, wrapping the bark in a cocoon of soft gold. Sparks of gentle light drifted into the air, dissolving into the realm like quiet blessings. His essence pulsed, slow and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of creation. And within that pulse, the world above felt the first faint stirring of dawn, the slightest lightening of the horizon, the softest change in the coolness of early morning air. The boundary between realms shimmered like a curtain made of light. R.A. moved toward it, his form lifting slightly from the deck of the bark. There was no hurry, no force, only the gentle rise of inevitability, as though creation itself was lifting him upward. The air brightened further. The faint sense of dew and fresh earth, carried from the world above, drifted through the archway. The underworld held its breath. When R.A. passed through the first layer of light, the transformation reached its peak. His form expanded into a radiant sphere, glowing with soft gold and pale rose. This was not the full intensity of the midday sun. It was a warm promise of dawn, the reassurance that night had fulfilled its purpose, that life would return, that warmth and illumination would once again touch the land. As the bark ascended through the gateway, the Duat gently released its hold, like a dream giving way to waking. The gods followed closely, their presence harmonizing with the growing brightness. Behind them, the underworld shimmered with fading reflections, gradually dimming as R.A. separated from the realm of night. Above, the horizon of the living world slowly opened. The first threads of morning light stretched across the sky, soft and tender. The calm surface of the Nile glistened faintly. The silhouette of palm trees emerged from darkness like shapes rising from memory. In homes across the land, sleeping humans stirred, sensing the change even before their eyes opened. Animals shifted quietly in their shelters. Birds fluttered their wings in anticipation. Ra's light grew brighter in response, not harsh or sudden, but like the warm touch of a hand laid gently upon the world. The bark finally crossed the threshold completely. The colors of dawn blossomed into fuller hues, peach, coral, gold. The sky brightened in layers, each one blooming softly over the next. Ra's form glowed at the center of it all, reborn, renewed, ready to begin the day's journey once more. The underworld faded behind him. The world of the living welcomed his return. And in that serene moment, when light met horizon, when night released its last breath, when the air trembled with the quiet joy of awakening, R.A. rose into the sky as Khepri, the dawn-bringer, carrying the promise of a new beginning in his gentle radiance. As dawn approached and R.A. emerged from the underworld, he shifted into his morning identity. Khepri, the symbol of renewal and gentle beginnings. In this form, his light was soft and hopeful, like the first warm breath after a long night. The sky brightened slowly around him, painted in tender hues of rose and gold, as though creation itself were waking with quiet gratitude. The world below stirred gently. Birds fluttered their wings, the Nile shimmered with new light, and the cool sand warmed beneath the early glow. Khepri reminded all beings that each day was a fresh start, a small rebirth, a promise that life continued. As the sun climbed higher, R.A. transformed once more, becoming our Horti, the powerful falcon form who ruled the midday sky. His light grew stronger, clearer, offering guidance and vitality to all living things. This was the R.A. who watched over farmers tending their fields, travelers navigating desert paths, and workers shaping stone into temples. Under R.A. Horti's steady brilliance, the world thrived. Colors sharpened, shadows shortened, and life moved with purpose. His presence at midday symbolized order, strength, and the clarity of a world fully awake. As evening approached, Ra shifted into his final form for the day, Adam, the wise, aging sun who descended gently toward the horizon. His light softened into warm oranges and deep golds, casting long, peaceful shadows across the land. Adam carried the wisdom of the entire day, reminding humans that endings were natural and necessary, a quiet return to the stillness from which dawn would rise again. In this form, he taught acceptance, reflection, and the serene beauty of closure. Through these transformations, Khepri Ra Horti and Adam, Ra showed the world that life is a cycle of beginnings, fullness, and calm endings. Each form carried its own lesson, its own rhythm, each one essential to the harmony of the cosmos. Even after Ra ascended to the heavens, his presence continued to guide Egyptian life in quiet, steady ways. Each sunrise felt like a blessing, each noon a reassurance, each sunset a peaceful reminder that the world followed a pattern shaped by divine intention. People no longer saw Ra walking among them, yet they felt him everywhere. In the warmth that touched the soil, in the shimmer of the Nile, in the golden glow that embraced their temples each morning. Pharaohs came to be understood as Ra's chosen reflections on earth. They were not merely rulers, but living embodiments of his light, charged with protecting Ma'at, the fragile balance of the world. When a pharaoh stood beneath the sun, their radiance symbolically met Ra's, forming a bridge between the heavens and humanity. This bond shaped rituals, ceremonies, and the very structure of Egyptian society. Temples built in Ra's honor were crafted with extraordinary care, aligned with the sun's journey, so that shafts of light would pierce hidden chambers on specific days. Priests greeted dawn with soft chants and offerings, their movements slow, respectful, and filled with purpose. Incense drifted upward like prayers rising on the morning breeze, creating a ritual dialogue between earth and sky. Everyday people felt Ra's influence too. Farmers trusted his warmth to bless their crops. Mothers lifted their infants toward the glow of morning light. Artists carved solar discs onto walls and amulets, calling for clarity and protection. Festivals celebrated his journey, drawing communities together in music, dance, and reverent silence as the sun crested the horizon. Through all of this, Ra remained a quiet companion. His cycle became the rhythm of Egypt itself, a daily reassurance that light would always return, that order endured, and that creation lived not only in myth, but in every moment touched by the sun. As the story of Ra passed through generations, Egyptians began to understand him not only as a creator or ruler, but as a profound symbol, one that reflected the deepest truths of existence. His journey across the sky became philosophy in motion, a gentle reminder that life unfolds in cycles, each moment rising, shining, fading, and renewing again. Ra's daily rebirth at dawn symbolized hope, the chance to begin anew after darkness. His steady midday radiance represented strength, clarity, and purpose. His evening descent into the horizon embodied rest, reflection, and acceptance. These transitions taught that power need not be constant to be meaningful. It could soften without weakening, shift without disappearing. To many, Ra became a metaphor for the inner sun, the quiet flame within each person that guides them through challenges, illuminates their thoughts, and renews itself after periods of struggle. Just as Ra entered to do it each night, people too traveled to their own shadows, learning, releasing, and emerging transformed. The myth also carried a gentle lesson about balance. Light was precious not because it banished darkness, but because it harmonized with it. Night was not an enemy of day. It was part of the path. Ra's confrontation with Apophis symbolized the truth that chaos exists and must be faced, but can always be overcome through consistency, clarity, and inner resilience. Ra's story invited listeners to breathe a little slower, to trust the unfolding of time, to find comfort in cycles rather than fear them. It taught that even in moments of uncertainty, a dawn waits quietly just beyond the horizon. And so Ra became more than a god. He became a way of seeing the world, a reminder that light returns, balance matters, and within every ending rests the promise of a gentle new beginning.